1. Alyssa Farah Griffin opens up about stress on The View. 2. Alyssa Farah Griffin reveals she cries at work on The View. This is a very hard job to do. 3. The View's Alyssa Farah Griffin reveals she's cried at least half a dozen times on set. 4. Alyssa Farah Griffin opens up about crying on The View, the emotional reality of TV panels. 1. Alyssa Farah Griffin opens up about stress on The View. Being the sole conservative voice in a politically charged environment can take an emotional toll. Alyssa Farah Griffin's experience on The View proves it. During a recent segment on workplace stress, Griffin confessed to crying multiple times from the pressure of holding minority viewpoints among her co-hosts. "I cry at work, but I hide it," she revealed, catching co-host Sunny Hostin off guard. The discussion centered on Gen Z's bathroom camping trend, retreating to restrooms for stress relief, which Griffin related to her, admitting, "I have cried at this job at least half a dozen times." When pressed by Joy Behar for specifics, Griffin highlighted the challenge of being outnumbered. "This is a very hard job. I oftentimes have the only opinion that's different at a table of 5 people." But here's where it gets controversial. Despite her conservative background as a former Trump White House staffer turned critic, Griffin notably voted for Kamala Harris alongside her co-hosts, including Republican-turned-Democrat supporter Ana Navarro. This political pivot raises questions about ideological consistency that deserve examination. What's your take? Should media figures maintain rigid partisan loyalty? Griffin acknowledged support from producer Brian Tetter. "Brian gives great hugs," after Whoopi Goldberg insisted, "Nobody should be crying at this job." This contrasts sharply with Meghan McCain's memoir alleging toxic treatment during her tenure, a history inviting inevitable comparisons about workplace dynamics. Does having a token opposition voice truly foster balanced discourse, or does it inevitably lead to emotional strain? Weigh in below. 2. Alyssa Farah Griffin reveals she cries at work on The View. This is a very hard job to do. Imagine this. A talk show co-host opens up about her professional struggles in a way that feels both relatable and surprisingly raw. On Wednesday's episode of The View, co-host Alyssa Farah Griffin shared a personal truth that many might find surprising. She cries at work. But here's where it gets controversial. She keeps it hidden from her bosses. The conversation centered around reports that Gen Z employees are frequently found crying in the workplace bathrooms. While co-hosts Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, and Sarah Haynes seemed to struggle with connecting to this experience, Griffin felt a strong resonance. "I cry at work, but I hide it. My bosses will never know," as she admitted. Hostin, taken aback by Griffin's honesty, blurted out, "You cry at work?" Griffin confirmed with a firm nod, saying she had shed tears at least half a dozen times on the job. "Are you kidding? Have you done this job?" as she challenged, drawing applause from the audience. Griffin drew a parallel to her Simpsons-y episode where Bart Simpson confides in Milhouse about his secret spot for crying. When Behar pressed for specifics, Griffin explained that the job is incredibly demanding, especially when she often holds the sole dissenting opinion among 5 colleagues. It's worth noting that Griffin, who previously worked as a White House aide under Donald Trump, usually aligns with conservative viewpoints. However, during the 2024 presidential election, she broke from her usual stance and voted for the Democratic candidate. Haynes added that crying at work isn't limited to Gen Z alone. Gen Z and even previous generations have experienced this, but now they have a label for it, as she said. Haynes admitted to shedding tears over breakups while at work, though her approach differed from Griffin's. Instead of hiding in the bathroom, she would take a coffee break to compose herself. Despite the emotional challenges, Griffin emphasized her deep satisfaction with her role on The View. For the record, "This is a great job," as she stated, adding that the show's executive producer, Brian Tetter, offers comforting hugs. And this is the part most people miss. While Griffin's admission might seem unusual, it underscores the emotional toll of high-stress jobs. Is it acceptable to cry at work, or should professionals keep their emotions strictly in check? What strategies do you use to manage stress in your workplace? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 3. The View's Alyssa Farah Griffin reveals she's cried at least half a dozen times on set. High-profile talk shows aren't always sunshine and smiles behind the scenes. Sometimes, the emotional strain bubbles over for everyone to see. But here's where it gets personal. One of The View's co-hosts recently shared just how deeply the backstage stress can affect her. The View's a famous hot topics table, where hosts and guests hash out current events, voice passionate opinions, and, on occasion, spark on-air clashes, has always been a magnet for drama. Yet, the intensity recently reached new heights when Alyssa Farah Griffin, the panel's outspoken conservative voice, got candid about how challenging her job really is. During a lively segment referencing a Vice article about Gen Z's trend of using restrooms as makeshift stress sanctuaries at work, Griffin revealed, "I cry at work." She quickly clarified that these breakdowns happen in secret, joking, "as so my bosses will never know." Opening up further, she admitted, "I have cried at this job at least half a dozen times. Are you kidding? Have you done this job?" Her words offered a rare glimpse into just how isolating, and sometimes overwhelming, it can feel to consistently represent a minority viewpoint at a very opinionated table. Curiosity piqued, co-host Joy Behar pressed Griffin to share what actually drove her to tears. According to Fox News, Griffin explained that what makes her job so tough is oftentimes having the only opinion that's different at a table of 5 people. Yet, Griffin insisted there are upsides, too, cheerfully noting that every time she's broken down, the show's producer, Brian Tetter, has comforted her with a supportive hug. For the record, as she added, "This is a great job." Her admission took Whoopi Goldberg by surprise. Goldberg, who moderates the panel, replied with genuine concern, "The thing that shocks me is there is nothing that people should be able to do to you to make you cry." She made it clear that the team wants to support Griffin, declaring, "And nobody should be crying at this job. Nobody." And this is the part most people miss. While many of the on-air debates appear cordial, not every exchange is so civil. Case in point, a fiery showdown in November 2024 between Griffin and co-host Sunny Hostin caught attention when their discussion about the messaging strategies of both political parties spiraled into a heated argument. Entertainment Weekly reported on how Griffin, visibly exasperated during the exchange, had to interrupt. "Can I just finish my point, please?" Whether moments like these contributed to her emotional toll, Griffin hasn't directly said, but it's clear the pressure is real. Despite these behind-the-scenes tensions, the show goes on, live, unscripted, and with all its sparks and surprises. The View airs weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on ABC, with episodes also arriving on Hulu the following day. Here's where things get controversial. Should panelists on political talk shows be expected to hold their emotions in, even when they're outnumbered? Or is a raw, honest reaction a sign of authenticity that viewers deserve to see? Let us know what you think. Does this inside look at The View change how you feel about the on-air debates? Jump into the comments and join the conversation. 4. Alyssa Farah Griffin opens up about crying on The View, the emotional reality of TV panels. Alyssa Farah Griffin has candidly shared that her experience as a panelist on The View has been quite emotional, revealing that she has shed tears at least 6 times during her 3 years on the show. In a recent episode aired on July 9th, she opened up about her struggles, stating, "I cry at work, but I hide it." This admission came during a discussion about the concept of safe spaces in the workplace, where co-hosts Whoopi Goldberg and Sunny Hostin humorously critiqued the trend among Gen Z to use restrooms as places for a bathroom camping, or to create emotional bunkers for relaxation. Goldberg, at 69, expressed that she never felt the need for a safe space at work, while Hostin, 56, voiced her doubts about the appropriateness of crying in professional settings. Host Tin remarked, this crying at work thing? I don't know. I've never felt the luxury to be able to cry at work. I just try to get my work done, be as excellent as I can and go home and chill out. I don't know. In a surprising turn, Farah Griffin interjected, revealing her own emotional experiences since joining The View as its latest conservative voice in 2022. Previously, she served as the White House's Director of Strategic Communications in 2020. I have cried at this job at least half a dozen times. Are you kidding me? As she stated, catching Host Tin off guard. To illustrate her point, she shared a popular meme featuring Bart Simpson and Milhouse entering a cave, humorously captioned, "This is where I come to cry," which she claimed represented every little corner of this building afore her. Farah Griffin emphasized the challenges of her role, noting, "This is a very hard job to do and, oftentimes, I have the only opinion that's different at a table of 5 people." However, she quickly added, "I would like to state, for the record, this is a great job. Every time I have cried, producer Brian Tetter gives great hugs." She also reminded her co-host Sarah Haynes that she, too, has cried on air in the past. Haynes responded, acknowledging that younger generations are more open about discussing their emotions, saying, "A Gen Z and maybe the generation before are talking about this issue because they can call it something. For years, and decades, and millennia, we have all channeled it into other places. But, yes, I do cry." Goldberg, however, remained skeptical, asserting, "There is nothing that people should be able to do to you, here, to make you cry. Let us support you. Because nobody should be crying at this job." Farah Griffin is not alone in her emotional experiences on The View. Her predecessor, Meghan McCain, who was a conservative commentator on the show from 2017 to 2021, expressed her own struggles after leaving, stating that the show has a lot of demons that started in the beginning, and none of those demons have been exorcised. The show has seen its share of dramatic moments, including a notorious on-air clash between Elizabeth Hasselbeck and Rosie O'Donnell in 2007 over the Iraq War. O'Donnell confronted Hasselbeck for not defending her against media critics who misinterpreted her anti-war stance, leading to O'Donnell requesting to be released from her contract, although she would later return for another controversial stint in 2014. In a 2018 appearance on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen, former View star Jenny McCarthy revealed that she felt pressured to act Republican during her time on the show, despite being initially brought on as their pop culture girl. She recounted, "They initially had me come on there to be the pop culture girl, but then, View co-creator and original panelist, Barbara Walters, didn't know who anyone was pop culture-wise. Then, they came in my dressing room and said, 'Can you just act Republican so we have another point of view?' I said, 'How do I act Republican?'" The View continues to air on ABC from Monday to Friday, providing a platform for lively discussions and diverse opinions.